Hey, podcast world.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. How you doing, Graciela?
Woo, good. I always feel like I just ran a marathon. Like it doesn't matter how long I've been sitting on this couch. I'm always like, how you doing, Julietta?
I'm doing all good. So you've got a new studio. How are things going over there?
I do. It's been well, I mean, to be totally transparent, it's been like a little bit like parenting. It's like the best thing in the world and the most terrifying thing in the world all at the same time. So for those that don't know, I'm a photographer and I recently switched studios. I had 800 square feet and now I'm at 1800 square feet, which is really exciting. It is, probably about the size of a house, I guess. And I definitely have it full with enough furniture for a house, that's for sure. I keep my space not looking like a photo studio, I guess, because I shoot boudoir and branding. I really want it to look environmental, right? So lots of velvet couches. Oh, I got a new couch. I don't know if I told you that. If you saw it already, maybe you did.
The one in the front that was
Yes,
there.
yeah, cute new little pillow, but oh my gosh, it's so cute. And then today, of all days, my restroom exploded. I don't know what happened. So I had a plumber here earlier. So it's like, with every good comes a little challenge, and with every challenge comes something good. So yeah, it's been an adventure. But you know what? I have to tell you a story because I did yesterday. We were here for like, I don't know, 13 hours or something like that. We did like a big model shoot day. And one of and I say models, but I really mean like, my clients, right? Like, not non-professionals. And one of them was this young girl, and she was so fabulous, like so gorgeous. But one of the things that she mentioned, she's like, oh, I don't really like my nose. And I'm like, what? I love your nose, right? And it got me thinking about another young lady in my life. And same thing. She was like 16 when she was like, I'm so ready for a nose job. And when she told me that, you know me, I cry for everything. I got so emotional. I was like, oh my gosh, like, no, don't, and this podcast always makes me think about wisdom, which makes me think about ancestry. And I always say you've got 14 generations of human beings that had to come together in a certain way for you to exist, right? And so I don't know, I'm hyper fixated on noses right now. Because I'm like, man, it's so like your history, right? Like it's so just part of who you are as a human being, and I know we all have like things we love and hate and blah blah blah, but I kind of feel like it's the Matrix, like we're just like it's all made up, right? What's a good nose? What's a bad nose? What's a good face? What's a bad face? I don't know.
It is totally made up. And for me, it's always too like this is not who we are. This is just the vessel that our soul chose to inhabit on this lifetime. And sometimes I ask myself, why the hell did I choose this vessel? I mean, there were so many other ones to choose from, but in general, this vessel has done everything I've asked it to do, and so I need to be grateful for that. And you talking about that, a couple different things that that come to mind. We talked about what's her name? The girl from Dirty Dancing, Jennifer
Grey, yeah.
The whole thing where, she went and had this nose job and then no one could recognize her anymore, and I just kept thinking like, she was beautiful before. Like, why did she do this?
Right.
And
it's interesting. I mean, I always say, like, listen, don't get me wrong, right? Like, do what feels good to you, right? If you feel like you want to alter a part of your body, I mean, I pierce my ears, that's an alteration, right? Like, I alter, everybody alters something. Like, I get it, right? Gain weight, lose weight, dye this, dye that, whatever. Like, do what feels good to you. As long as you're doing it from a place of empowerment, I support you. I think that's awesome. the part that always gets me is like feeling down on yourself. And I wonder how much of that is just purely environmental. I always laugh with my clients because I'm like, in South Florida, like I'm a 6, but man, in Haiti, I'm a 12, right? Like in cultures that appreciate full-figured women, like I'm a queen, like, so how much of it is that real, right? I don't know. It's really interesting. It's interesting to take a step back.
It's something I work on in my office all day with clients, is loving themselves for who they are. And like you said, if it's coming from a place of empowerment, great. But when it's so many people, it's coming from a place of needing to fit in, needing to look like everybody else. And we don't need more of everybody else's. We need more of you.
Yes.
Your uniqueness. And
yeah, I'd say, you know what, before you visit a surgeon, hop on a plane for a hot second and go somewhere else and just check it out.
Well, I was telling you too about that, the Spanish actress, I think her name's Rosita Palma or something like that. And how I know her is from the Pedro Almodovar movies. If you have not watched a Pedro Almodovar movie, watch them. They're hilarious. They're everything. But this actress is in a lot of his movies, and she has very unique, I'll say a bit extreme features, and she just rocks them. And she gives me hope, and that everybody can just embrace themselves and love themselves for how they came out, and like you said, like this was the compilation of how many generations of DNA coming together to create this unique you. And so embrace it, love it, all of that.
It's really an interesting conversation. I definitely think it's one to like take out with you and have with your friends. That's one thing we haven't talked about recently. Like, I hope that our listeners hear what we're saying. Yes, but like, let it be a jumping off point. Like, take this podcast to your friends, let them listen to it, have that conversation and see what comes up for you. I bet you anything y'all are thinking the same thing, but nobody's telling the other one what you're thinking, right? There's nothing better than when someone says, oh yeah, me too, oh yeah, I get it. So it's I love that village stuff.
Takes a village. Should we bring on our guest?
Let's do it.
All right. Dun, dun, dun.
Hey, y'all.
Hello, Larissa. Welcome to the show.
Welcome. Well, this is awesome. I like this whole little intro.
Well, we just love to chat. Honestly, we could probably do a whole talk show, but we're starting with a podcast.
Yeah, I don't like my nose either, so we can. All good.
Love your nose. I will shoot your nose all day long, please.
That's so funny. So yeah, my name is Larissa. I don't know to what context because I do so much.
I was just gonna say, do your intro, and I know you're a multi-passionate professional. So
yeah, a lot of it for me was just the search for trying to have like a quality of life. I love working, and I love being able to employ other people and to use what I do as a vessel for other things and community and things like that. So what I do, what pays the bills, is I do marketing full time. I do predominantly search engine optimization. And I'm probably one of the few women in South Florida that actually do that. And aside from that, I do have a wine bar in Oakland Park, and that's how I know Ella. She actually met me right before when we were under construction for about 2 years, and that was extremely difficult, but thank God we're open and functioning. So that's pretty much the gist of it. I'm not sure if there's anything else to point out.
That wine bar is fabulous. And I do remember, like, the whole time I kept on thinking, my goodness, like, this poor girl, she's like, what tenacity to be able to get through and finally do it. But you just celebrated a big anniversary. Yes.
Yes. I wish you came, but we're probably not going to do it next year. It was a lot of work. But we closed off the street basically, and we had kind of like a Wines Around the World kind of festival where all of our distributors had represented a country like Spain, France, California and stuff. And so it was awesome. We had live music. We had about, I think, 500 people or so.
Wow.
That day, completely understaffed, and I slept a week after that. But it was awesome because we're such a little bar that we were able to make an event that big. So it kind of proved to us that we could do it, which was awesome too. So.
Well, and that speaks volumes to your ability to market as well. I mean, gosh, what a better business owner than someone who's an expert in marketing. Like you're like the perfect trifecta there of skills.
Yeah, for sure. Like I love, you need some skin in the game. A lot of marketers don't have their own businesses, and it's hilarious sometimes. Like I get sales calls all the time about certain things, and I'm like, well, you just do what you're supposed to be doing. You're gonna get clients that way. So. But yeah, so that was pretty, so we were under construction for 2 years during COVID, and it was kind of like going through the city and never doing it, building a bar from the ground up. It was kind of like playing chicken. Like, when are you going to give up, kind of thing. That's how it felt. Like, it was tough because you see a lot of businesses like down the street. Sometimes they'll be in construction and they don't open because it's so difficult to kind of work with the city and the state, and then licensing, and then permits, and all this craziness. But it's definitely worthwhile once you do it. But again, you can do one of two ways: like either rent a place that's already like built, or building yourself. But again, you have those pros and cons with both.
So you're running both. Sorry, Julietta. I think I apologize to Julietta 86 times an episode because I want to talk the whole time.
Oh no, all good, all good.
Well, I want as much as you want, Graciela.
You're so sweet. I love you so much. Write that down, listeners. She's going to regret that later. But I wanted to ask you our first question because you're such a multi-passionate professional and you have so much experience. Like, what's your why? Like, what's your biggest success story? Like whether it's with the bar, whether it's with the SEO, like where do you find the inspiration to keep on going? Because, you've been through a lot putting that bar together. And I know you host a lot of community folks there. You host a lot of artists and bands and things like that. So like, what's been your favorite, like, man, I'm so glad I did this moment?
Yeah. A lot of it is just being able to help other people. So that's what kind of stemmed through the whole marketing realm. Like when I was younger, I had a family member ripped off by a marketing company. And then after that, my attempts were terrible, but I graduated college during the recession, and then it just kind of fell on my lap. It was like what I've been doing since high school. And thereafter, I just kind of started in that way. And it was funny because like I rented my first office when I was like 19 years old.
Wow.
And I was kind of tricked into it though. My dad at the time, he was like, yeah, I'll help you pay for it, whatever. And he honestly, he never was intending to pay for it. But it was cute because like he just like, got me off the ledge to start doing and believing myself, kind of thing. And yeah, a lot of it is just, being able to have enough knowledge to be able to help others. Because a lot of times, like I grew up in New York, New Jersey, like across the river from New York City, and you see a lot of beautiful artists and the amount of potential that they have, but a lot of them struggle to make a business from that. And I can imagine, Graciela, you probably see a lot of people going through that. And so for me, a lot of it was like, how can I help these non-business minded people to be able to utilize their passion into a business. And so that's kind of where all of that, it all kind of comes full circle. And search engine in general is, for those of you who don't know, it's pretty much what you see underneath the ads on Google. And that's more of like a sweat equity. So it's kind of like the underdog's way of getting leads. Whereas you don't always have to pay per click, but once you're there for a predominant amount of time until you have like heavy competition, then you have to just go back and forth. But so that's pretty much it. And for the bar, we use that as a vessel for arts and communities. So we'll host monthly art shows, rotating art gallery. We always like to feature new artists for Saturday nights and some other events and things like that. So however we can, based on our constraints, like we're able to help. So. And we've had an awesome community. So like a highlight moment was just like, just people coming in and they're like, oh my God, I love the vibe of the bar. Like little things like that. It's just, it's nice to see, or the types of people that actually go. It's such a mix of people. It's not from the actual direct vicinity. Like we get everything there, and it's awesome. Yeah, well, you've seen it, Graciela, sometimes.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say it's got that speakeasy vibe. I think Juliet has been as well. And when I walked in, I fully expected it to be like all women. I don't know why. Maybe because it's a women-owned bar. You don't see a lot of that either. But it was such an eclectic mix of people, and I'm like, man, it's like home. It's like a chic hometown bar, like hometown, like anyone can go, but super chic and cool, but small enough to be chill. Like you can. I always say that I like hosting events for old people so that you can hear over the music, and your bar has that. You can
yeah, for sure. It's something definitely laid back, and it's cool because we give opportunities to the bartenders to kind of create their own, invite their friends and be comfortable. Where it's not like me dictating, oh, it needs to be this way. Obviously, there's like confines to the brand. But there's always way like, hey, like give enough creativity for them to kind of make it their own in a sense too. So that's what I like about like community in general, that type of thing.
Beautiful. So our listeners and Graciela and I are big readers, book nuts. And so we're always looking for our next read. What is one book that you wish all women would read?
That's a great question. I'm not actually, I read, but I do more podcasts and actually like audiobooks and stuff like that. But I was actually stumbling across, this is actually a workbook that I'm currently working on. It's called, it's kind of heavy, to be honest. It's called the 12 Steps of Adult Children. And it just talks about, it started with, I guess, alcoholics, but a lot of it stems from our childhood that we don't realize, like tendencies like perfectionism, judging ourselves, stuffing our feelings, addictive lives overall, abandonment issues, like stuff, isolation, procrastination, mistrust. So stuff that we think that is normal is really not, and it stems from other places. So as you probably know, like trauma is held in our body. And for me, I think in my late 20s, I kind of realized what really helped me in business was being able to release a lot of the old wounds that I had. And I didn't realize it affected my business at all. Sometimes we have like those repetitive thoughts and stuff like that, and it gets or held in our body, like, in our muscles and things like that. So after that, it's just like you're able to make better decisions and really think in a clearer mind versus you're just like, targeted in one direction and can't see all of the options available. So I like, working on myself for the most part. And if I'm able to help other people in the process, I'm happy to do so as well. So it's kind of heavy though. Like it goes through like everything that it forces you to go through everything. So I'm kind of like at the beginning of it. So it's a whole thing. So
Larissa, I don't think you realize how, in what such good company you are, because I myself am the adult child of an alcoholic. And when I read the original book, I remember reading it probably in my mid-20s. Mm-hmm. And I read it and I was looking around, like you read something and you look around like, is someone watching me? Because it felt like reading my diary. Like all of those things that you just listed, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's me. I do that. And literally every episode, something about this type of thing comes up. And I always say, like, everyone's like, oh, wow, you do everything so perfectly. And I'm like, thanks. It's childhood trauma. It has little do I know that my insistence on being perfect and making sure everything was right and being a people pleaser and all of that stuff came from all of that.
It all stems. Yeah, it's heavy. Like I think a lot of people could relate. Unfortunately, the name of it is kind of intense, but it's a lot. And it's helpful for the most part. It's a workbook. So this is not the book. This is the workbook.
Yeah. No, I didn't even know there was a workbook.
Yeah, the workbook is intense. So it forces you to put like everything down,
Well, so. I want y'all to know, like, I did not come up in a traumatic childhood. I came up in a beautiful childhood, and I still feel the need to be perfect. And I had one of these aha moments. Like, my parents would tell everybody that I was perfect,
Mm.
you know, and on one level you go like, oh, that's amazing. And then I had this aha moment like, oh, that's why I'm afraid to fail. I can't make mistakes. I have to do everything exactly right because I've been told that's who I am. I am the perfect one that
Yeah.
doesn't make any mistakes. So while I have my parents' unconditional love and support, it still formed me into this person that always has to do everything right. Until now, I give my permission to mess up all the time. It's great.
Yeah, and it's part of it. And I've been thankful. I haven't had alcoholic parents, but just through Latino families, I think that we all carry a lot of generational trauma and the gossiping, and especially as young women, like they'll be judging 12-year-olds like, oh my God, she's so fat. Like, why don't she take care of herself, or why is she acting like they treat them like adults? Like, it's crazy. And it's just stuff that like I hope that I'm able to at least break when I have kids and stuff like that. So
Well, I'm here to tell you that you can. I will tell you that my grandmother, who I absolutely love to death, I will never forget, probably when I was about 12 or 13, she taught me, young ladies, that we sit up straight and that you always hold your stomach in, that you always hold your core. And so I literally have been like holding my stomach in for like 20 years. And then I think it was probably, and maybe it may have been like when I got pregnant, like when I couldn't physically hold it in anymore. And I was like, my God, this is bullshit. I'm so tired. Like, how long do I have to do this?
Well, also, we need to breathe into our bellies because the diaphragm coming down is what massages all our internal organs and keeps them operating optimally. And it's such a big issue out there that like all the time I'm teaching people how to breathe into their bellies because they breathe into their chests, and it's like, no, that's so unhealthy. Breathe into your belly. Let it hang out. It's beautiful.
And thank you for bringing up that trauma is stored in the body. That's something that we work on a lot. And Julietta is absolutely the magical PT. Not only is she just a physical therapist, but she assesses you on a lot of different levels. And I know, Julietta, you see a lot of that in your work.
yeah, so you probably see a lot.
And that's part of my journey, because traditionally in physical therapy, nobody's looking at emotional traumas, and everything physical has an emotional component to it, and everything emotional has a physical component to it as well. Like, it's not one or the other, but they both feed off of each other. And because people don't look at that whole picture, that's why a lot of people keep walking around in pain, because nobody's addressed both sides of the issue. And
I will tell you that when I was growing up in elementary school, middle school, I had the worst stomach aches, right? Just like terrible stomach aches. My mom took me to a million GI doctors. Nothing was wrong with me, whatnot. When my parents got divorced, my dad being the alcoholic and my mom not, I went to live with my mom and I didn't see my dad, and my stomach aches went away. And then years later, like 15 years later, when I got divorced, my stomach aches totally went away. Like, I was a brand new woman, and I was like, oh my God, there was never anything wrong with my stomach, like it was just trauma leaving the body, so
wow. That's crazy.
yeah, it's really amazing. So I want to ask you, I'm sure you've had a lot of experiences in your life. What's one piece of advice that you've received from a woman that really changed your life? And I know it's hard to bring down to one little nugget, but if you had to pick something that just opened a door for you, what would that be?
Like, ironically, like I'm surrounded by a lot of strong women, thankfully. But I was thinking about this for the last few days, and I was just like, honestly, some of the strongest pieces of advice have actually come from men.
Powerful.
And it's just probably like, I would, like I love the whole female empowerment and everything like that, but I also think that we need to be open-minded to everyone that has that knowledge and is willing to share. And I've been fortunate to have very good advice from both, but I think some of the prominent ones, like I remember someone like really shook me to my core. It was like a friend of a friend. This guy was like a millionaire, and he did like construction in South Florida, and he did it. he built it himself. It wasn't family inherited or anything like that. And he was asking me like specific questions about the business, what's going on. And he's like, honestly, you should be doing better. You should expect more for what you've done. And it was kind of like, whoa, like it was this tone that was so serious. And it was like, you just need to expect more from yourself. Not so much to be hard on yourself, but a lot of times we just settle. Or we think like, oh, that's good enough. Like it pays the bills. It's good enough. Like, no, like you deserve more for yourself. And I think that was a staple. And a lot of people, for us, we have like those self-limiting beliefs or not even that, or just, we have issues with money or afraid to get more money or whatever the situation is. I think that we need to also hold ourselves to a higher standard, regardless of where you're at. And that was one of the many things that I've learned.
That's very powerful. And you mentioned earlier about being Latina, and all the cultural things that come with that. It's kind of ironic because like in my family, the strongest and the weakest people are the same women in my life, right? So like I give a lot of credit for my strength to the women in my life, but also in the times of my life when I've made myself smaller also comes from the women too, So it is powerful to take that advice from anywhere that it comes, I mean, we just had a gentleman on our show earlier, and seeing different perspectives makes a big difference.
Well, I think in general, our society has, like, men are taught to always expect more, and we as women are taught to expect less, and or to be okay with what we get. And so I love that he was open enough to say that to you, because I think historically, like, men save those tidbits for each other.
Yeah,
right. And
just like kind of like a big brother, like random kind of, you could tell it was good intentions. It wasn't like malicious or anything like that.
No, I mean, the comment in and of itself doesn't sound, I mean, honestly, when you said it, I was like, oh shit, that's good for me too. Let me write that one down.
No, but I was even talking with like an app developer the other day, and we were all drinking. Obviously, we're all buzzed at this point, but I was asking him questions. I was like, I don't know anything about this app, but you could tell it was like one of the kinds things in Africa that does like crazy things, like very good technology, and it was probably open for, or was developed for like maybe 9 years. Like it's been in business for a long time. And I'm like, how much do you make? Like if I'm asking, personally, and he said a certain amount, I'm like, wow, like you should be doing better. And he was shocked. He was just like, oh shit, like I should be doing better. It's just, men, women, like we all need to expect better for ourselves. So that was,
I think it's healthy to shake things up for that too, like the purpose of this podcast, right? It's to inspire, it's to empower. And sometimes you just need someone to call it like it is, because I'm gifted with a lot of friends that are like, you're awesome, you're doing great, you're doing a good job. And I'm like, okay, but man, sometimes it take that one person to like,
kick you in the butt. For sure. Right? And I do believe in coaches too, like definitely hire professionals in their field, however, whatever issue you're encompassing, get that bookkeeper that you need to like balance the books, really get yourself on point and, lean into your strengths. But everyone has something to offer, I think.
We had a quote earlier that someone said, outsource everything but genius. I was like, oh, that's such a good one. Like perfect mantra for a business owner.
Yeah, business is hard. Like, we're used to hunting. And a lot of employees don't really understand that. So,
yeah, I don't miss being the boss. Having employees is hard.
Yeah.
Did that for about 15 years, and I'm happy to not have employees now, because it's
never boring, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you've had a lot of experiences in your life. I look at you and you're so young. I'm like, oh my God, I remember.
It's a baby face. It's a baby face. But yeah, I did start very young, and I was, like you're hard-headed to a point and you think you know everything until you get humbled real quick. But it's just, I want to make like a very nice, my priorities are just like having good work environments, like not hostile, they're not aggressive towards each other, they're respectful, and you'd be surprised how hard that is to maintain. You know, people love to cross these boundaries all the time. So
well, everyone carries their own trauma, right? Like that's,
yeah, for sure. So yeah, and I'm very grateful for this whole like podcast situation. This conversation is awesome. So I wasn't sure what to expect.
We only do fabulous. So no.
So what I was going to say, you've taken a lot of risks in your life. And so what is one thing that you've done that you know that you will never regret?
I don't regret a lot, just unless like I haven't done something. Where I wanted to do something and then just for some reason or another haven't done it. But I think that one of the biggest risks that I took was that when I moved down here when I was 22 years old in South Florida by myself. I didn't know anyone, didn't know what was going on, picked up a U-Haul, and then that was that. But I absolutely love the South Florida community here. People are a lot more business friendly than they were up north. And that's one of the biggest, I guess, outlets and factors, because I was able to do as much as I am today to be able to facilitate all those things. But yeah, there's so many good nuggets you see even throughout the day. Like it's nice to see, like we'll have customers come in with like food or so, just like I'm just happy that we have such a good like community around us that is just so happy, and we're able to help each other out for the most part.
Well, I think your success is due in large part to your big heart and the fact that you approach things so passionately and so authentically.
Mm-hmm.
I love that your message is be bold and take chances. I mean, that takes a lot. I always say, my parents are Cuban, and they came here in 1959, like a lot who were getting away from something. And I always say, man, that like there's gotta be a lot for you to pick up and move. I've lived in South Florida my entire life.
Yeah.
And whenever I hear, Julietta came from Wisconsin,
Mm-hmm.
That was probably an easy choice given the weather situation,
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just so impressed. And when you said you were 22, my little mommy heart went,
Yeah, it's so funny. I thought I was grown then, and then I totally grew up once I moved down here.
Yeah, and probably we're gonna keep growing, right? Like one
sure.
day you'll look back and you'll be like, oh, remember back when I was whatever,
Yeah, it's crazy. I would never let my kids leave. It's funny.
That's okay. My mom, when I told her I was going to go away to college, she was like, oh, great. I'll sell the house and buy an RV and I'll follow you. And I was like, ew, Mom. And now my kids are 13 and they're talking about where they want to go. And I'm looking at my boyfriend like, let's pack up the RV. Where are we going?
That's cute. Yeah, I was really fortunate to have parents that were really they're unafraid of risk. So even when I was really young, I was blessed to have that. At least they have this saying in Portuguese, it's called "Você vai conseguir," like you are going to make it. And it was just repeated when I was younger. You're going to make it, whatever it is. And they've always been super supportive. So I've been, very thankful for that.
I'm writing those down right now.
Yeah, and it's like instilled in my mind. Você vai conseguir is like a whole thing.
Beautiful. I'm gonna need that on a T-shirt, please. Like,
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
I want what you're having. Well, I'm glad this kind of is a nice little segue to our last question, which is, and I'll tell you the reason behind the question. A lot of our listeners, this podcast started during the pandemic, and there was a lot of darkness, and we're always looking for little pockets of hope and little things to help remind us, that it's all good, like someone else said, this too shall pass, right? But share with us just one of your sweetest, most delicious memories, like give us a little something to savor today.
That's a really interesting question, and I was thinking about that too. I was like, I wouldn't consider like memories delicious, but
well, we're foodies, so
yeah. Well, yeah, one of the
opposite way.
Honestly, it was just the recent one was the block party that we were able to do. So just seeing the amount of like lines, we were like obviously panicking at that point, but it was just like we can throw a party. So I was happy about that. So one of the last ones.
That's awesome. Being happy in your accomplishments, writing that one down. You've given us so much to think about today.
And it's also like anytime you feel like you're stuck, something's going on inside. So it's just a matter of like asking yourself why, like what's going on.
Exactly.
I got it. Yeah.
We want to thank you so much for joining us today, Larissa. It has been great having you on, hearing about all your successes and seeing the passion you have behind what you do and the heart you have behind what you do. We need more businesses with heart. And
thank you for the invitation. I honestly don't consider myself a success. I just think that, we're all works in progress, and I'm not done yet. You know what I'm saying? I'm not retired. So.
Well, I would challenge you, Larissa, to hold the belief that you can be a success and a work in progress at the same time, because you are absolutely a success. Your nose, your background, your workbook, all of it together, it is a success, and you are absolutely an inspiration. I mean, I'm not just saying that. Like you really are. I mean, I've been impressed with you since the moment you walked in the door, and I was like, oh my God, look at this young girl. And you're like, I'm a grown woman,
I'll definitely think about that for sure.
I appreciate you, and I know our audience does too. So thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Thank you, guys.
All right. See y'all on the flip side.
Take care, y'all.